food served on the grandest tables is so much more than just a meal. Historically, these extravagant dishes were created to represent power. They also set fashions. Nowadays, royal food is all about showcasing the best of British. In celebration of royal food,
we know it's the Queen's recipe because we've got it in our own hand.
From the present and the past,
that is proper regal.
we recreate old family favourites.
Now, the Queen Mother had this really wicked trick with these.
What a mess.
We sample royal eating al fresco
Oh, wow. That is what you want.
and revisit the most extravagant times.
Pheasant, stag, turkey, salmon, oysters and turbot dressed in a lobster champagne sauce.
Unbelievable.
This is Royal Recipes. Hello, I'm Michael Burke and welcome to Royal Recipes. This is Audley End, one of Britain's finest stately homes, built in the style of a royal palace and once owned by a king. In the splendour of the gardens, halls and kitchen of this grandest of country houses, we'll be recreating the food served at the highest royal tables. And it all starts here with this gem, a royal kitchen maid's cookbook, the only surviving recipe book of its kind in the Royal Archive. This is an exact copy of the original, which is kept at Windsor Castle. Inside, the recipes of Mildred Nichols, who worked at Buckingham Palace in the early 1900s. And for the first time in over 100 years, we'll be bringing these recipes back to life. This time, we're cooking food fit for only the very best of parties. Royal birthdays. Today on Royal Recipes, former royal chef Carolyn Robb on cooking for Prince Charles's 50th.
That was a party arranged for him by William and Harry. They took charge of everything, including the menu.
Historian Dr. Annie Gray reveals how the Edwardian elite celebrated a king's birthday.
You hold it at the most fashionable hotel in town. And you serve the birthday cake on the back of a small elephant.
And chef Anna Haugh makes a birthday pudding fit for Queen Victoria's grandson.
Candles?
No, candles would ruin it. Anyway, there's a lot of rum in there. Might flambe up.
Here in the grand stately home, we begin with a dish fit for royal dining, one to impress the finest of royal palates.
And we're here in the grand kitchen with top London chef Anna Haugh.
And today we're going to be talking about birthdays, royal birthday food.
The dish that you're going to do is from the present Queen's 80th birthday lunch party, which was held at Kew Palace. So what are you cooking?
So today I'm going to do a venison haunch with a juniper sauce.
Good.
So the first thing I'm going to do is prepare the venison to get it into the pan. Make sure that the pan is lovely and hot because it's the caramelization of your meat that's going to give you lovely flavour.
What oil are you using?
This is just a pumice oil, so it's a very light olive oil. So it's got a good smoking point, which means it's not going to burn as quickly as butter. And then later on, I will add some butter, so it'll be nice foaming caramelization going on.
And you season it?
Yep, salt and pepper. And then once my pan is lovely and hot, you can see there's a little bit of smoke coming off that. I'd add a little bit more oil.
Yeah.
And then in goes my steak.
Oh,
Followed
sizzles
by-
as soon as it hits it.
Followed by the thyme. A bit of crushed garlic.
God, that was an explosion of wonderful garlic smell. So the trick here is to kind of, what, to seal it, to sear it on both
So
sides?
you're trying to caramelise the meat. So if you have poached venison, which is actually delicious, but if you've got poached venison and caramelised venison right beside each other, they should taste completely different because it's two different methods of cooking. And what we're trying to do is just bring out that gorgeous caramelised meat flavour. So really, it needs to be on a nice high heat, especially in the beginning, to get that good colour. There needs to be a nice golden brown on each side. Then once that happens, I'll add my butter in and we can get going on our sauce.
The venison at this luncheon party was actually from the royal estate at Sandringham. Do you think that would be farmed or wild? And is there any difference at all?
I'd like to think it was wild. I mean, there's a huge difference between farmed
Really?
and wild. Absolutely. I mean, they've had a much more relaxed life, a happier kind of environment where they get to feed off the natural vegetation that's growing around, the herbs and things like that, where an animal that grows in a farmed environment is never going to have that type of life.
So does that affect the texture of the meat or the taste?
I think I know it affects the marbling of the meat, it affects the flavour of the meat, it affects the hormones that are in the meat. So essentially you're going to end up with more tender, more flavoursome, more delicious meat.
So in your restaurant, you'd only cook wild venison, would you?
Only wild, and only obviously when it's in season.
So you've seared both sides?
I've seared both sides, but I'm just, once I've got a bit of colour now on the other side, I'm going to add some butter.
Now why?
So the butter is going to allow me to have more substance to nappe, and to nappe means I'm going to spoon it on top of the steak. And this is a more delicious way of caramelising a steak instead of popping it in the oven. You could pop it in the oven for probably about maybe 5 to 8 minutes, and then it would cook it medium rare, but at the minute I'm going to finish it off in the pan.
So nappe is a Ponzi chef's word for baste, is it?
Nappe is a very useful word that communicates very well to my team how I want something cooked.
Right. But it is the same as basting, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So while that's kind of cooking away, I'm going to get going on the juniper sauce. Juniper, which goes so well with venison.
It's nice and sharp, isn't it?
Yeah. Here, I've already sweated down some shallots, bit of garlic, some thyme, and juniper berries. And what I'm going to add to this now is some Madeira. So I'm just going to add a little splash of that.
Oh, don't hold back.
Save some for later.
OK. It's interesting, isn't it, how things have changed. I've got the menu here from the Queen's 80th birthday lunch. I think Prince Charles organised it for her. But just 3 courses, and 3 relatively simple courses, whereas her great-grandfather, Edward VII, would have had 14 courses for lunch. Perhaps that's why the Queen's lived as long as she has.
Well, I think you're right.
And Edward VII didn't live to a ripe old age, did he? Ripe, but not old.
I also think it's a sign of the times. Years ago, I think it was really important for the royal family to show off and...
The opulence, the wealth, power,
and
all
almost
that.
be wasteful because they could, where I think nowadays the royal family doesn't want to be necessarily associated with so much waste.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to add the stock now to our sauce.
What stock is that?
Chicken and beef, giving it just a bit more meaty flavour. So I'm going to actually take our venison off now.
How can you tell it's properly cooked?
This is one of the most difficult questions to answer, and chefs get asked it all the time. Because when you're cooking a piece of meat from the same animal over and over again, of course you know by touch, you know by look, and that's how you know. But really, the animals are just all different. So really, it's a gamble. I'm just hoping that this is ready.
You're winging it, are you? Now, resting it is the key thing, isn't it, a bit?
Absolutely. Resting is so important because what you want to do is let it relax.
Subside, yeah.
And then what happens is that all the juice and all the deliciousness just mellows out in there, and you can just really feel it when you eat it. Like, if you ate that now, it would be tough.
Yeah.
It would be tough.
But leave it a bit and
leave it a bit. It's about maybe half the cooking time, approximately. If you've got the patience.
But I grew up in a tradition where you'd... cold house, of course.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be at it straight away because you didn't want it to go cold.
This is so true. It's unbelievable. When I cook for my family, and this is my whole family, if they're not burning their mouth, if their mouth doesn't get some sort of severe burn and blister...
Or even caramelised,
it's not good.
as you would put it.
Yeah, exactly. OK, I'm going to pass my sauce.
Or you're just straining it off.
Yes, I'm straining it off because I want to remove most of the juniper berries, the garlic and the thyme. So I'm just going to take some of the juniper berries.
I was going to say, you're not going to lose them all.
Not going to lose them all. So I'm just going to give that a little chop. You get a lovely juniper flavour.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. That's what you associate so much with venison.
What are you doing now?
So I'm just going to add just a little drop of cream, not too much.
It's a kind of simple dish, but you can't do without the cream, can you?
No. You need a little bit of the richness, I think, just to make it special. Also, venison haunch is quite lean.
Yeah.
So a little bit of,
There's
a
not
creamy
much fat
sauce
around,
goes well.
is there?
Exactly.
Oh, it's looking really good,
ready?
then.
Yeah. So I think we're ready to plate our venison haunch.
It's looking really good, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So that resting time is just so important.
Looks really good. Nice and pink in the centre.
Which is really what you want, isn't it? With any red meat.
Well, that's what I want.
Okay.
It looks tender, but that could just be because you've got a fantastically sharp knife.
Yes, but for a venison haunch, that is lovely and tender. I can feel it as I'm carving. OK.
So this is going to be quite an experience.
Yep.
Yep.
OK,
Lovely greens. And they are green. What's the secret?
You just want to cook them very quickly at a high heat. That's it. Don't spend a long time on it. Now our venison and our sauce, our juniper sauce.
I'm reaching for the knife and fork at this stage. And like a true gentleman, I'm reaching for yours too.
Oh, you're so good. Thank you.
Go on, you first. You go.
OK.
Oh, yes. That does look good. I'm going to have some of the green stuff with it too. Being very healthy. OK?
The juniper and the Madeira just goes so well with the venison.
Absolutely terrific. Now, I've never really thought too much to venison, but I think you've changed my mind.
Well, that makes my day, Michael.
I think the Queen had fireworks in Kew Gardens after this birthday lunch. Oh, fireworks in my mouth. It's absolutely lovely.
A mouth-watering and warming dish, perfect for any royal birthday celebration. No royal birthday is complete without chocolate. One of the first monarchs to enjoy hot chocolate was King Charles II, who once owned this great house. Charles was on the throne when cocoa beans were first brought to Britain from South America in the 17th century. Chocolate was originally only prepared as a drink, and as Dr. Matt Green explains, this rich liquid drink didn't immediately take off.
When chocolate arrived in the 1650s, people were naturally suspicious of it because there was very little tradition of hot drinks in the country. So a market had to be generated. And the way this happened was that the people who were selling chocolate, they claimed that it had these miracle properties. It would cure you of indigestion, it would relieve you of consumption. But perhaps the most powerful way they marketed it was to say that it was an infallible aphrodisiac. As you can imagine, sales of it skyrocketed. So what did this stuff actually taste like?
One man who knows is award-winning chocolatier Paul Young. He uses artisan methods to make his treats, but today's chocolate is far more refined than the 17th century variety.
The elite would drink a very rich, thick and intense hot chocolate, probably slightly gritty because we didn't have the steel rollers to refine the chocolate right down. Sugar was expensive back then as well, it was for the elite too, so there won't have been as much sugar in there too. So that was really like the espresso of the hot chocolate world.
Chocolate popularity boomed, and by the early 18th century, a cluster of chocolate houses flourished around St James Square, near the court of Charles II.
Drinking chocolate was the only real option in the mid-17th century, and the British monarchy loved the stuff. The ingredients were expensive, and it was reported that Charles II paid an annual salary of £200 to his own personal chocolate maker, who would import the finest ingredients from all over the world to concoct a killer cup of chocolate. And successive monarchs after him, they all loved it as well, and they all employed their own personal chocolate maker.
Until Victorian times, chocolate was still only available as a drink. Then in 1847, one Bristol-based company hit upon a clever idea.
It was Fry's who literally took it and went, how can we carry it somewhere without it being in a cup? And the science behind that is taking the bean, grinding it so that the natural fat in the bean melts, grind in some sugar, then allow it to set. Bingo, we have a chocolate bar that has revolutionised the way we eat, buy and enjoy chocolate.
The bars were a huge hit, and thanks to other manufacturers, including Cadbury, chocolate was brought to the masses. Queen Victoria was also a fan, so much so she commissioned over 100,000 tins to be sent to her troops in South Africa in 1900.
Every single officer and soldier was meant to receive one of these that was stuffed full of exquisite chocolates. All the principal chocolate companies were involved, but what was interesting about it is that the Cadbury brothers, as Quakers, refused to profit in any way from the war because they were pacifists. So they didn't charge the Queen a single penny.
The modern royals may no longer employ a chocolatier, but the sweet treat is still very much a part of royal life.
The royal families do still love chocolate. Look at the amount of brands that have the royal warrant. The young royals are liking more contemporary flavours. They enjoy little drinks, so there's a lot more booze in their chocolate. I made a gin and tonic chocolate for the Queen's birthday.
When it comes to a chocolate birthday cake, it's said the royals always use the same recipe. It's been a hit since chef Gabrielle Shumy first made it for the present Queen's grandmother, Queen Mary. It's Shumy's chocolate cake.
Chocolate's always represented the ultimate in royal indulgence. And Anna, I think there is one very special chocolate cake that is wheeled out for every royal birthday, isn't it?
That's right, Queen Mary's birthday cake.
That's the wife of George V?
That's right.
So for 100 years, this chocolate cake has been brought out at royal birthdays.
Yeah, and today you're going to see why.
Ah, better than that, I'm going to eat it.
So I'm going to start off with a sabion. So a sabion
What's a sabion?
is where you get a kind of simmering pan of water, and in a heat-proof bowl, you're going to put your eggs and your sugar in, and you're
So
going
it
to
cooks
whisk
very
it.
gently.
Cooks very gently, but as you can see, like this is full of air, and that's exactly what you want with a lovely sponge cake. So then once you can kind of write the figure 8, or if you want to write Anna, you can. You know that it's ready.
That's what makes a signature dish.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to sieve in our flour, and you sieve your flour so that it incorporates as much air as you possibly can as well.
Only the very finest bits go down there, or it just goes in slowly?
We're going to fold it in so that we're protecting the air of that, and we're going to do that with Maurice.
Look at the way
not
it's
with
kind
a
of
whisk. Yeah.
like a tsunami in there.
Yeah, and then our melted butter. And then we're just almost there. Just fold it through.
What sort of consistency are you looking for with this?
Yeah, so you're making a kind of a really light kind of batter consistency, and you just need to make sure that you're absolutely folding from the bottom and lifting it up to the top.
It's a definite technique, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not kind of beating it up in any kind of way. You're kind of lifting it up somehow.
Yeah, and then that way you're just making sure that you can't see any more of the butter and the flour. And we're almost done, and now I'm going to just divide it between the two moulds there.
Apparently the royal cakes only ever have happy birthday, though. It doesn't say happy birthday William or happy birthday Harry or something, just happy birthday. And also never the number on either. That's very naff, apparently. This is news you can use.
I know, I love it. I could listen to you all day. I'm going to pour these into the two moulds now. And you want to try to make them as even as possible, because it just makes the actual cake then, when you go to build it in layers, nice and even.
Makes it look better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really glutinous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Look at the way it's
And it's
slurping
lovely,
in there.
It's lovely and warm now, and that's why you can cook it at 160, because usually you would cook cakes like this at 180 degrees. So you pop that into the oven, 160 degrees, for about 20-25 minutes.
It was Queen Mary's own royal chef at the time. Yeah, it must have been in the early 1900s, who came up with it. His name was Gabrielle Shumy. He was Swiss, apparently.
Is there anything you don't know?
Very little. I don't know how to cook, so what do you do next?
Okay, so once your batter's in the tin, you pop it in the oven for about 20-25 minutes at about 160 degrees.
And this is what you get at the end of that.
That's exactly what you get. The key to this cake is lots of layers of sponge and lots of layers of chocolate.
Because you've split them all in half?
That's right, yeah. They're all cut perfectly in half. And then on the outside, we're going to finish it again with more chocolate ganache. So it's chocolate on chocolate.
Ganache. What is a ganache?
A ganache is this delightful, luxurious, silky chocolate filling. It's a real treat. So we melt cream and some sugar together in a pot, and then just when it comes up to the boil, you pour it over your chocolate. You let it rest for a minute or so.
Yeah.
And then you just whisk it.
Why do you let it rest for a minute or so?
Well,
why aren't you stirring away to get the chocolate melted?
Well, you'd be removing some of the heat, and this is the only heat that you need to make your ganache. You want it to be more like room temperature to build a cake, because if it's too hot, it will just soak into the sponge.
Ah, right. You can take your time over that.
Yeah,
really.
it's
I mean,
lovely.
there's no great rush here.
You wouldn't think it, though, but by using a whisk, you stop incorporating air. Because normally with a whisk it adds air.
Yeah.
But with this it doesn't. If you used a Maurice, it would actually add more air.
And you don't want air at this stage?
Not at this stage, no. Look at this.
Viscous.
Look at this.
Oh, wow.
Silky, shiny, gorgeous. Perfect.
Oh, lovely.
Yep. Now, this is a little bit hot for me to use, so I've got one that I made earlier on.
Okay, in the
Which
tradition.
I'm going to use. And if you swap places with me, I'll start to build this
Only for
here.
a moment, though.
Okay,
I don't want to be too far away from this.
I absolutely love building cakes. Right, so in the centre of each kind of sponge, you're going to put some of the chocolate ganache.
So the trick with this dish is not to hold on the chocolate, eh?
It's, yeah, chocolate, just more chocolate, more chocolate.
And then a bit more after
Yeah,
that.
that's it. It's certainly, on the outside, you're going to completely cover it in chocolate. So it feels like a special celebratory kind of cake.
And what is it about building cakes that appeals to you particularly?
It's fun. You get to eat it.
Oh, yeah. But it's the building it that you like.
I do, actually. I really like the building of it. It's therapeutic, I think. So we're almost done. 3 layers in.
They're quite thin layers, though.
I think the ratio of chocolate and sponge is just right then,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
If it was too big, you wouldn't really get your chocolate cake. Really spoiling yourself.
Oh, yeah. The smell is absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic, isn't it? Is that the last bit?
This is the last bit. This is when the real fun happens. OK, so I really need to get this on top.
Now you're putting a lot more chocolate on the top than you
Okay.
did in the layers.
Yeah, so then, because I need to get it all around the sides, so I'm going to gently nudge this over. Oh, like, isn't this just so lovely? This is very therapeutic. I could do this all day.
They have it at all their birthdays, but the Queen had this especially, I think, on her 80th birthday, but with a special Highgrove twist to it. She had fruit from Highgrove
Yeah.
actually in the cake.
Oh, I think that would have been delicious. Chocolate and fruit is classic.
Yet another layer
Yeah.
inside. You mustn't let any of the sponge come through, must you?
Oh, I see,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Sorry.
Now, come on. You've got to fill it all in. You've got plenty of chocolate left.
You spend a bit of time just making sure it's right.
Finito?
Finito.
Can I move the plate over?
You're like the best helper ever.
Look at that. No, come on, let's have a bit. And you start nibbling.
Quite happy with that. That looks quite delicious. Let's get it cut. Oh, I love a sponge cake. It's so satisfying to cut.
Just think, the Queen has had 90 birthdays. Oh, actually, she has 2 birthdays a year, you know.
Oh, right.
And she has the cake on each of the birthdays, so well over 100 of these cakes she must have tried.
Oh, I'm so
Okay.
excited to try this.
Why are you putting it away from me?
Oh, because normally I don't get a look in when we go to eat a bit of chocolate. Look at that.
Multi-story.
That's beautiful.
Terrific, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh, look at
After you then, Anna.
Yes, it's all about me.
Anybody thought you'd have cooked it? Oh, I'm going to get the whole lot. Oh,
What a great recipe.
it is a big mouth. Lovely the way you've got the layers. And it's really soft and light. And you've got this rich chocolate.
Chocolate is delight.
Oh. Well, many happy returns.
When it comes to birthdays, cake is a must-have, and it usually follows a tasty, celebratory meal. Royal chef Carolyn Robb produced many delicious birthday meals while working at the royal household. And today she's going to make 2 courses from one of her favourite celebrations.
I think the one I remember the most fondly was Prince Charles's 50th birthday, because that was a party arranged for him by William and Harry. They took charge of everything, including the menu. It was a chicken dish, which was one of their favourites. It was always a family favourite, followed by ice cream, homemade ice cream, and fruit from the garden. What we're going to do first is make some chicken mousse. So I've got 150 grams of chicken breast and just blend it a little bit. So that's broken down quite a bit. Now I'm going to add some basil. I always like to add lots and lots, just because it makes it such a gorgeous pale green colour. One of the reasons for doing this dish for Prince Charles's birthday was because he so loved herbs, and you're able to use them in abundance in this dish. I'm going to put a twist of pepper, add in some cream. Right, one more stem and then I think that'll be enough. Okay, it's a really lovely, fresh, vibrant green colour. The next stage is to make an incision into the chicken breast, all the way from the front to the back. This doesn't have to be perfectly neat. If a little bit comes out while it's cooking, it really doesn't matter. It's supposed to be a rustic dish.
Once Carolyn has stuffed the chicken, she adds a little butter and wraps in cling film. After poaching for 12 minutes, they're then pan-fried for a further 4.
So all we need to do now is plate it up. Slice the chicken. Just do it in 4 or 5 slices so that you can see the nice mousse through the middle.
Carolyn served the chicken with some of Prince Charles' favourite vegetables, sautéed spinach and mushrooms, accompanied by boulangère potatoes and finished with a cream sauce.
Although it was a private party for personal friends, it was a really big event in many ways because all of Prince Charles's 17 godchildren were invited, and together with Prince William and Prince Harry, and they put on the most incredible production, a series of little skits and musical numbers, and it was amazing. This is one of my favourite dishes, and I think it makes such a great birthday or celebration meal. It all goes together really well, and it was certainly a great favourite over many years of cooking in the royal household.
But no birthday celebration would be complete without a sweet treat, and for Prince Charles's 50th, Carolyn made poached pears.
Today I've chosen some Williams pears. They're quite firm still, which means they'll be absolutely perfect for poaching. There used to be wonderful pear trees in the gardens at Highgrove, so this was something that we did all the time, poached pears. Prince Charles was always very keen to know where all his ingredients had come from. The fruit and vegetables largely came from the gardens. And now using a melon baller, I'm just going to go in and scoop out. And that's really nice when it's being eaten. You don't have to worry about any pips. And I'm just going to trim the bottom so that when it's cooked, it stands up perfectly.
Carolyn poaches the pears in a vanilla, ginger and orange zest syrup. They take 10 minutes to cook before chilling in the fridge. They're then ready to serve along with vanilla ice cream.
I've got everything ready for the dessert now. I have the ice cream, which has been setting overnight, and I have some pears that have been in the fridge overnight. So they've been soaking in this delicious orange and vanilla syrup. They will be really flavourful by now. So now I'm going to plate it up. And I've got a little trick that I use to stop the ice cream from skating all over the plate. Either put a little biscuit or tiny little meringue or a macaroon, or today I've got a few little crumbs of honeycomb, and that just stops the ice cream from skating all over the plate. And then the ice cream sits on the top of that. Ice cream was always a great favourite, particularly for birthdays. The favourite was vanilla ice cream, just a very simple homemade vanilla with wonderful cream from the dairy at Windsor, and that was always served with fruit from the garden. While I was at the palace, obviously there were lots of birthdays. Prince William and Prince Harry were quite small, so it was always fun doing birthday suppers for them, and ice cream for pudding, and birthday cakes were great fun because they wanted all sorts of things like helicopters and motorbikes. We had great fun doing those under their direction. And of course you always need a sprig of fresh mint, my favourite. So it's a very simple dessert, but it was always a great favourite.
With Prince Charles' favourite poached pears and chicken supreme, it was certainly a birthday meal to remember. Along with family and special guests, one person always present at royal birthdays is the household butler.
Grant Harold here has been butler to Prince Charles and to Prince William and Prince Harry. Royal birthdays have always, historically speaking anyway, been pretty lavish affairs.
They have been in the past, especially in the Victorian times when Queen Victoria's grandson, Prince Albert, was quite famously had a birthday at Sandringham in 1885, and they had things on the menu like turtle soup and game dishes and stag and oysters. So that was quite a very kind of formal event, which is obviously still remembered to this day.
What about now? How big a contrast is a birthday party for one of the younger royals now?
It's changed a lot because that was quite formal, where today it's not as formal. There's still protocol, there's still ways to behave around them, but for example, Prince William's 21st was a safari-themed birthday party at Windsor Castle. So the guests, instead of being in the black tie, they turned up in, I think, in line suits and loincloths and that kind of thing. So it's very different to how it was, say, over 100 years ago.
Didn't he worry about how the older royals were going to do?
I think he famously, Prince William actually said that, you know, his grandmother, the Queen, did actually comment about not being too sure what what she would wear and how it would all work. But she looked forward to it, apparently, and I think, obviously, they all enjoyed it.
The royals get some strange gifts, don't they?
They do get some very strange gifts. I think it does make me laugh because, you know, when you suddenly hear that they've been given a crocodile or an elephant or a beaver, where do you put it? You know, do you put the crocodile in the drawing room or something? But I'm glad to say that they obviously go to London Zoo, who then look after them. So there is some unusual gifts that they've been given over.
Have you worked at any of these birthday parties?
I have. They're very private, as you can imagine, but the role of a butler is the same as what we do during any kind of dinner or event. We're laying the table up, serving the table, looking after the guests, making sure the food goes out when it's hot, you know, making sure that it's kind of running everything behind the scenes so that out front it all runs beautifully.
The Queen famously has 2 birthdays, doesn't she? How did that come about?
She does. I believe it was back in the time of George II, because his birthday fell in November, which was obviously quite cold, and he wanted it to be in spring. So therefore he had the idea that he would have his official birthday in November and have his spring birthday in late spring, early summer.
You said there are protocols and traditions surrounding the celebration of royal birthdays. What kind of things? I mean, for instance, the staff expected to say, "Happy birthday, Ma'am," or...
Yes, I mean, the wonderful thing is when you work closely with them, you are expected to kind of say happy birthday to them and acknowledge it's their birthday. And as you say, with protocol, I mean, you know, it's quite normal that if people want to give presents, say, for example, what's a really nice touch is to actually send it ahead of a party or after the party, because what you don't want is people turning up on the day and suddenly giving the Queen all these gifts, which is lovely as it is. It can be a bit too much when you've maybe got a couple of hundred turning up for a big event or something. So my advice I give to people is to always send presents in advance or after.
I'll bear that in mind.
From the safari-themed parties of the present to the decadent celebrations of the last century, some royal parties make more of a lasting impression than others. Historian Dr. Annie Gray is en route to a venue which hosted one of the most lavish royal parties in Edwardian Britain.
Birthday cake, balloons, party poppers. All of these things are part and parcel of a good birthday bash. But they don't quite cut it when you're holding a party for a king.
The party was in honour of King Edward VII, well-known foodie and party animal.
So what do you do when you hold a birthday bash for a king? Well, you hold it at the most fashionable hotel in town, and you serve it to your guests seated in a gondola. And you serve the birthday cake on the back of a small elephant. That's exactly what happened here in June 1905.
London's Savoy Hotel was the setting for this extravagant event. The king himself didn't attend, but that didn't stop any expense being spared. Footing the bill was American champagne millionaire George Kessler. The hotel archivist is Susan Scott.
This is just absolutely incredible. So in 1905, this was an open courtyard. There was a gondola in the middle of the courtyard, which was full of water.
2 gondolas. They had one big gondola, which was the one that had the dining table in it, and then there was a smaller one in which they put the band who played for the evening. The whole space was flooded. They used putty to seal every single doorway, anything that looked like it might leak. The pièce de résistance, as if that were not enough, is they brought in a baby elephant with a enormous, I think it had something like 5 tiers, but this huge birthday cake on its back. Essentially, money was no object.
The historic Savoy has a treasure trove of an archive which details this extraordinary party.
This is the line-up of all the actual guests at the party.
The headlines are incredible, aren't they? Money mad rich. £125 a head is an enormous amount. I mean, it's the salary of a really top-notch cook in a private household.
This was something quite spectacular. It really was above and beyond the usual standard of extravagance.
Although Edward didn't attend the party, he'd been a regular visitor as Prince of Wales. In fact, his aristocratic set helped make supper at the Savoy an institution amongst smart society.
When people saw that they would come and have a lunch in a hotel, which essentially was the same as dining in public, instead of in their own private homes, it changed everything. Suddenly, everybody started coming.
One of the prince's draws to the hotel was its famous chef, Auguste Escoffier, the father of modern French cuisine. Savoy pâtissier Luc Bijard still uses his recipes.
The name Escoffier, for anybody who cooks, is up there with a sort of halo around it.
It's the base of, I would say, almost everything.
Escoffier often named dishes after famous customers, including the classic peach Melba, tribute to the Australian opera singer Nellie Melba.
We'll start with the yellow poached peach.
And they've just been poached in sugar syrup or in wine?
Vanilla and sugar syrup, really important. Vanilla is the secret. We're gonna add 1 fresh raspberry, a bit of raspberry coulis. We put 1 scoop of vanilla ice cream. Make a nice rosace of chantilly. Raspberry coulis on top, and then some caramelized almond.
Oh my goodness.
So the iced one?
An iced one. When Edward VII came to the throne, he threw out what he saw as Victorian excess and did bring in this kind of much more simplified idea of very pure French-style food. And actually, when I look at this, there is a sort of joy in its simplicity.
Yeah.
Even though it's not actually very simple at all.
It's a simplicity, but it's still magical. It's a combination of everything, the taste, the presentation. It's really nice.
Pastry maid Mildred Nichols was in the kitchen at Buckingham Palace at the end of King Edward's reign, and her notebook is full of French classics, including a baba, which inspired another pudding called a savarin.
There were lots of other favourite dishes for the royals' birthday party. There were such extraordinarily lavish affairs. You've got one, I think, a pudding from the 21st birthday party of King Edward VII's eldest son.
Well, today I'm going to make savarin à l'orange. It's the type of pudding you want to have at a big festival or a big party. So I think I should get started.
Yep.
I've already got a basic kind of dough in here, just with the addition of eggs and orange zest. And now I'm just going to add the butter in bit by bit. This is exactly how you would make a brioche dough. You want to add your butter kind of bit by bit so that it incorporates really well in with the mix.
And it's going to end up as a kind of rum baba.
I love rum baba. It's absolutely one of my favourite desserts. So yeah, it's kind of like a rum baba in a way that it has the rum and the syrup and you soak a kind of bread in it. But I guess because a savarin is more to do with the shape of the mould, we're calling it a savarin. But it's a very similar idea to a rum baba.
I mean, baba's a pretty... I wonder where it comes from, baba. It doesn't sound French or anything, does it?
Michael, I expected you to be teaching me this. Oh. I'll show you how to make it, but you're supposed to tell me where it comes from.
I could pretend. But actually, interestingly, the kitchen maid from Buckingham Palace, her recipe book in the early 1900s, it's got a recipe for babas here. I think more of an everyday royal baba. This is a birthday party.
I love it. Everyday royal baba. Yes, everyday royal baba.
Mix well, it says. Yeah, but she didn't have one of these mixers, did she?
No, and I can't imagine what that was like.
Yeah.
Trying to make a baba, a brioche, or a savarin dough without a machine would be a nightmare.
Exactly. Mildred must have had strong forearms, I think.
Like Popeye. Okay, so we're almost there.
Yep.
You gotta have a bit of patience. You see, I'm trying to throw the butter in there because I just want to do it. But really, it's about adding it at the right pace. But, oops.
Way.
Yep. Then you're going to let it double in size and you're going to knock it back. And that means that you're kind of going to take all your anger out on the dough and punch all the air out of it.
Why are you pushing all the air out?
Well, because we were exercising the dough. So you want to kind of let it stretch. So that's proving it. So then you got to knock it back so that it can reprove again inside your mould. So then it can be perfect and light.
Giving it a workout.
Yes, exactly. Cover that with cling film, let it double in size, pop it in the oven, and then it comes out like this.
Oh, it does look good,
doesn't it? Look good? And this is when the fun really starts, because this is when we're going to soak it, okay? And we're going to warm up your sugar, your rum, and your orange juice. and add your orange zest in there as well. So you want to just spike the saffron dough quite a bit so that when you pour your syrup on, that it kind of soaks through. You want to be able to soak it as quickly as possible and as
want the
easily as you
stuff
can.
to go down those
exactly
drain holes.
Yes.
You're doing there.
That's exactly.
Oh, that's a top
it.
tip.
Yeah. Well.
Otherwise, it would just slope off the side, would it?
That's it, or it just tends to kind of soak really, really slowly. And this is about kind of soaking up as quickly as possible, because you do want your saffron to soak while it's warm, ideally. Okay, so.
It's amazing when you think of what these people ate. I mean, this is at the end of a meal. 21st birthday party for Prince Albert Victor at Sandringham. Do you know what else they had before they even got round to this?
No, but I know you're going to tell me.
Got it written down here. They had partridge, wild duck, pheasant, stag, turkey, salmon, oysters, and turbot dressed in a lobster champagne sauce.
Oh, my God.
How much room would you have for your Savarin after that, do you think?
Yeah, but they must have been dancing and having fun, and it must be over a whole day, you know, because they've nothing else to do but party. We're
Probably
very
about
lucky.
the fourth meal of the day.
Yeah.
OK, look, it's soaking
Great,
in,
so
isn't
that's
it?
soaking, and you want to continue adding all your syrup in gradually every kind of 5 minutes or so until it's completely soaked through, which I have already done for you, Michael. So here we have, this is the same,
isn't that fabulous?
just turned the other way around. Yeah,
It
that's
looks
fabulous.
really sort of soaked in stuff.
But it's not finished. We have to finish it. Yes, we need some cream, and then we're going to, just at the end, grate a little bit of the orange zest on top. It just gives that lovely, fresh, kind of perfumey flavour from the orange. OK. So I know you don't like cream or sweets.
Can't stand the stuff myself.
No. So nice, generous.
Oh, you put some candied orange round the bottom.
So
there.
that means then with each kind of slice, you've got a bit of bite of the candied
different
zest.
texture,
Yeah.
sharper taste, in fact.
Yeah.
Oh, but that looks good, doesn't it?
It does look good. And then we're just going to finish it with a bit of zest. And I mean, my God, the smell that you get off zest of, it's fabulous.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? And again, you don't have to get that white bit
Exactly. You just want to be careful. You're just taking little shavings of it off.
You know, it was a birthday party. It's a birthday cake. Do you think candles?
No. Candles would ruin it. Anyway, there's a lot of rum in there. Might flambe up.
They're naff anyway, aren't they? Candles on birthday cake unless you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
Seems a shame to cut it. But we will.
Oh, we will.
There we go. I've got a plate.
Oh, can you hear that? That sounds delicious.
It's kind of sucking almost, isn't it? There's a bit of a glug.
Oh, this sounds good.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, look how the booze is soaked through.
A little bit of extra cream. That's the best.
Oh, yes, don't stint.
I was going to say it's
don't
the best.
stint on this.
It's not the best bit. The rum's the best bit.
The rum's the best bit. Here we go.
You go first.
No, after you. No, you're the cook.
Okay.
I wouldn't normally be like this.
Okay,
I'd be in it before you could.
Oh, look at that.
I think you got the
best bit.
The best bit. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, is it soggy or is it soggy?
That is so good. You can really get the orange in it.
There's a squeeze of booze in the orange. And actually, that's really nice. I should think Prince Albert Victor, if he was still conscious by this time and hadn't eaten himself under the table, had a great birthday party. That's brilliant. Well done, Anna. Well, that's it from our celebration of royal birthdays. See you next time.